Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for January 29th, 2025. Today is a very big day in the market with an FOMC rate decision and the beginning of big tech earnings reports after the bell today. And we are priced almost to perfection on some of these big tech reports. So there is an awful lot at stake today, and there is a tremendous amount of uncertainty and possibly even a little bit more scrutiny on some of these big techs with the emergence of the China's DeepSeek, which is so much cheaper in coming together. So kind of an interesting situation setting up for today. Let's take a quick look at what happened overnight. If we take a look at Asian markets, now most Asian markets were closed last night. Japan moved up last night 1.02%, and Australia had a good day, reaching a new high, up 47 or 0.57% on the day, but everything else was essentially closed due to the lunar holiday that they celebrate in Asian markets. Let's take a look at European markets here this morning. European markets are bullish. We've got the DAX up 0.81% this morning. We've got the FTSE up 0.33% this morning, but the CAC is lower by 0.22%. So just a little bit of mix going on over there. And if we take a look at U.S. futures here this morning, well, bouncing around here quite a bit as we do in the mornings, but they're all in the green, but pretty lightly in the green. Right now, Dow futures are up 6 points. S&P 500 futures are up 5.75 points, and the NASDAQ futures up 81 this morning as we continue to pump that big tech rally back to the upside. Let's take a look at what else we've got going on here for today. Let's take a quick look at oil. XLE catching a little tiny bit of a bounce here in the market this morning, but what's interesting is oil is actually just a little bit lower. We have oil down 57 cents at 73.20 a barrel. Brent crude is also lower this morning by about 48 cents at 77.01, and natural gas continues to slide in this move. Right now we are down about 9 cents here in natural gas, so keep a close eye on that. We're really starting to break through supports with that lower high in there, really turning things around here on that accord. If we take a look at the US dollar this morning, interesting here on the US dollar is showing strength this morning, moving up at the moment, almost 34 cents, trying to push back higher here. So we'll want to be keeping an eye on the dollar strength. And while that's happening, interestingly enough, we're seeing bonds a little bit lower here this morning, which is a kind of opposite day, I guess, going on here. But if we take a look at those U.S. bonds here this morning, we've got the 2-year bonds at 4.19%, the 10-year bonds at 4.53%, and the 30s are at 4.77%. As we head into that FOMC decision, we could probably expect quite a little bit of volatility in some of those bonds today, so keep a close eye on that. If we take a look at precious metals here this morning, gold had a really good day yesterday, pushing up off of this support and trend area, and right now gold futures are only up about 30 cents, but trying to follow through here just a little bit on those precious metals despite the fact that the dollar is rising. And we also see silver making a little tiny move to the upside, up 14 cents. Let's see, we're at 3101 a ounce on silver. Copper's just a tiny bit higher here today, but boy, it had a rough day yesterday. Platinum and palladium are also holding modest gains here this morning. If we take a look at the crypto markets, Bitcoin trying to recover here a bit of the big sell-off that we had on Monday. Continuing to show some bullishness here today. Right now up $805 a coin, or 0.79%, and Ether is up 13.31 a coin, up 0.43%. We do have some mix in some red and green in those cryptos here this morning, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. How about we settle in and let's buckle up and let's get ready for the Wednesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. We've got a very busy day ahead of us, and I had mentioned that there is a lot at stake here on the day, particularly with the big tech earnings reports. There have been stories, Zero Hedge has had stories that insiders have been selling at a very heavy pace heading into these big tech reports. Do they know something that the market doesn't know? I don't know, but I know retail is heavily invested in big tech. So be really, really careful here as we approach these reports. I don't think the FOMC is going to be that big a deal today, but we'll talk about that here in just a moment. First off, let's take a look at these charts and see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at these charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be, and try to shake off that bias. Now, if you can take a look here in the Dow, this is a remarkable move to the upside. We have had almost nothing for a down move here in the Dow, just a straight up run for days on end, and we're pushing up here to see if we can break through this all-time high in the chart. Right now, there's every reason to believe that's possible, and of course with big tech reports, we know that is very, very possible because we have several of the big techs, pushed over into the Dow now. So watch that carefully here. If we can get some bullish reports this afternoon, or just the anticipation of those reports today, I think there's every reason to believe we can push on through. But one thing I want to be warning you of is this is an incredible extension to the upside, just a straight up run there. And if we happen to stumble in any way, shape, or form, the point move down could be substantial. So watch that carefully. If we find any reason for those bears to engage and push lower, right now all the hype has pumped those tech stocks back up with no worry, but that is a heavy danger, I think, heading into these reports. So make sure you have a plan to protect yourself. If we look at the SPY had a really good recovery yesterday. If those bulls can continue to find that inspiration here today, well, we have that opportunity that we could maybe even fill the gap here on that chart to see if we can move on right up into there to fill that gap back up here toward these all-time highs in the SPY. But once again, we're pushing really hard on some very, very overpriced stocks right now. They're going to have to really knock it out of the park, I think, to continue this move to the upside. And it's certainly possible that they can. Just suggesting that we've got to be really careful going into these reports. Now, if the bulls can push right on through here, every reason to believe we can make some all-time highs here in the SPY. If the bears were to have some kind of inspiration here on the day and we were to push back down, well, just kind of keep in mind we could start making some pretty big moves to the downside particularly if some of those tech stock returns aren't all everyone is hoping they will be. If we take a look at the QQQ, now QQQ had a really nice bounce back yesterday, pushing back into this gap. Looking good on that push. If the bulls can continue that energy, and you can see we're gapping up here this morning, pushing up here into this resistance, pretty substantial area of resistance in the chart. But if we find plenty of inspiration in here, we might pump right on through, be right back up here testing this high when we learned about DeepSeek and the big pullback that the market had here. So watch that carefully. Remember, we've got a ways to go before we make those all-time highs here again in the QQQ. And if these techs happen to stumble, be prepared for some pretty big pullbacks, because we are all in on big techs. And that's about all the market was yesterday, is the recovery in big techs. Everything else was pretty flat. So watch that carefully. Here's an example of that being pretty flat. Boy, IWM just didn't have any love yesterday. Just really bouncing around here. I still think it may be setting up for an upside move, but we're going to need something to happen in here. When we dive into tech and everything is just so centric into tech, it sucks all the market, all the money out of the market here for IWM, and this kind of gets left behind, treated like a rented mule. And watch that carefully here. If those bulls can find inspiration, if we can push up here and retest these highs and then get something going there, we might be able to pop on through and get something going here in IWM. But honestly, I think it's going to take a tech sell-off for that to occur. If those bears find any inspiration here on the day, then watch for that potential that we could break this trend in here and start pushing that back down in the chart. Now, if we take a look at our VIX here on the day, our VIX had a good pullback yesterday. It surged. Boy, we just surged in the afternoon to the upside with lots and lots of hopefulness about these tech reports. So watch that carefully here. We're coming into a little bit of a support level here around 15.5 handles. You can see we've got price action support all the way back through here. So watch that carefully. If those bulls continue to find that inspiration, then we need to push on down and close this gap here in the VIX, and I think that is certainly possible with the big day of earnings that we have going today. If the bears, however, were to find some inspiration, if we were to catch some support in here and bounce back up, you could probably watch that fear start to rise pretty quickly if that were to occur. Just that nervousness and that uncertainty that was thrown into the market here this week. So watch that carefully. Our internals of the market, the T20s, are T2122, and this is what I was talking about here. T2122, while the market was zooming to the upside yesterday, it really was the majority of the Mag 7 making the moves here in the market and pushing the market up. So we're heavily invested into those going into these tech reports. And you can see we had the majority of the stocks moving lower. So T2122, this is, by the way, this is the entire New York Stock Exchange, and it is the 4-week new high, new low ratio. So what we had yesterday is more stocks declining than going up, despite the fact that we had those big zooming prices in the indexes were very tech centric. So watch that closely. If the bulls find good inspiration today, we have, with this pullback, opened up an opportunity to push up and maybe hit some of those new record highs in these indexes. So keep an eye on that. But at the same time, we want to recognize the fact if they were to stumble, we've got a big downside opportunity here for those bears to push if there is any hesitation or uncertainty in some of these reports today. So watch that carefully. Our T2108 also reflecting percentage of stocks above the 40-day. declined yesterday. So we had that pullback happening in the majority of stocks yesterday. It was all big tech yesterday. Now, if the bulls can find inspiration, well, we can certainly see we can push right up through that resistance right in there. And what I'd be looking for is pushing back up so we've got at least half of our stocks back above their 40-day moving average. We get the impression that the market is just incredibly bullish with those reports that we've been seeing here in these index charts, but so far we haven't been able to get 50% of our stocks back above their 40-day moving average. So be really careful with that. And if the bears were to find any inspiration in here, well, we've got some support levels that we could test down in this area. Watch that carefully, though, if those bears do get going. And if we have the T2107 indicator, the percentage of stocks above the 200-day, also declined yesterday on that big zooming move in the market. We've been up here testing this 50% area of the chart. We've got just about half of the stocks back above their 200-day. So today could be the day when we pop that through and really get going to the upside here and really improve. If we happen to stumble, just kind of keep in mind we could move that down pretty quickly here as well. So watch that closely. And our T2101, well, the breadth of the market declined substantially yesterday. Really pulling back. There was not a lot of breadth, and we could see that in the volume of the day. Volumes were light on the day because it was all big tech. It was a handful of companies that pushed our indexes into the green. So be careful here. There may be just enough uncertainty that could cause some volatility and create some hardship for anyone who is very committed to those big tech stocks if they happen to reverse. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. Our economic calendar, well, it's kind of a busy one. We've already got the mortgage applications numbers in. They came in at a negative 2.0. They were, last time was a 0.1. Purchasing index came in at a negative 0.4, and the refinance index came in at a negative 6.8. Again, the higher rates are creating some issues here in the market, and there are some clues. We're seeing credit card defaults rising. We're seeing some issues here in the market, so watch that carefully here. We may be, I don't want to say this is true because I don't know anything to be true, and I'm not trying to predict anything. There may be some things on the horizon showing that our economy is weakening with jobless claims and things like that rising, and our consumer confidence dropping yesterday below where they were expecting it to be. So watch that carefully here. If we don't get some zooming reports here in big tech, we may have some issues to look forward to in the near future as far as a pullback or a rest in the market. We've got international trading goods this morning. Kind of keep an eye on that right now. International trading goods is expecting our trade deficit to increase to a negative 105 billion. We don't seem to care much about that, but that is an important metric for the market. We've got retail inventories that will be out. Wholesale inventories has a consensus here. They're looking for those wholesale inventories to increase to a 0.3 from a negative 0.2. Remember, when inventories are increasing, it usually means consumers are slowing down. That could be a negative on the day, so watch those carefully. We've got petroleum status numbers that will be out today. We'll want to watch that carefully. Those are market moving numbers as well. Survey of business uncertainty will be out here today. But the big report of the day is going to be the FOMC here at 2 p.m. Eastern. They'll issue their decision, and probably not a lot of reaction to that. It will be the Fed's chair press conference where we're going to likely get the most fireworks here and volatility of the market. So keep that in mind. Now, once we get past this, remember we've got earnings reports that are going to spike the market and really hold a lot of interest for the day. So watch that carefully with those tech reports. We'll cover that in just a second. But we're not out of the woods for the week. Remember that we get through all of this volatility today, and then we're going to address a GDP number on Thursday morning before the bell. We've got jobless claims, pending home sales, natural gas report, bond auctions, and a Fed balance sheet to be thinking about as we plan forward after today's big release of data. If we were to take a look at our earnings calendar, it is a busy one, and there's no way I can cover everything in the earnings calendar today, but I'll run through a few of these notable reports this morning. We've got AEM that will be reporting today, stocks like CALX. Will be in here. Oh, excuse me, those are after the bell reports. Let's get to the right list. We've got AIT reporting this morning. A little pop and drop going on here. ASML, huge move here in ASML on a big gap up, but it is now pulling back. We've got things like ADP in here on the day. We're going to hear from EXP. We've got Flex that will be reporting. We're going to hear from General Dynamics. We've got Hess Corporation that will be reporting today. We've got the NDAQ on the list. A little pop and drop going on there already this morning. We got SMG, Scott's Miracle-Gro, will be in there. TEVA, UBS will be reporting. VFC, WNC will be reporting today, so kind of keep an eye on those. We've got quite a few reports here this morning that could move the market, and if you want the full list of notables, make sure you take a look at the link just below the title of the video. That'll take you back to the morning blog. This afternoon, the big reports are going to be Meta at all-time highs and zooming here into its report. We've got Tesla that will be reporting. Not as much bullishness there on Tesla just yet. And then we're going to have Microsoft. Microsoft, once again, zooming another day up as retail just piles into these names with tremendous confidence that they're going to be great. So watch that carefully here. If they stumble, it's going to hurt, so be careful here in those charts. So those are going to be the biggest notables of the day for this afternoon, but we've got others like IBM, Levi Strauss will be reporting on the day. So quite a few reports this afternoon. So expect some volatility as we go through our day and afternoon. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That will help the channel to continue to grow. And thank you so much for everyone who does try to does that and shares these videos. You guys are truly awesome. Thank you so much for the kind support. I'm humbled every day to the kindness of the folks that are supporting the channel. You guys are awesome. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up. Remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence, need to be very, very careful in this market. And as I said before, just be paying very close attention to the potentials here of big zooming upside moves, big zooming downside moves. we're all set up for that possibility. So be prepared for quite a lot of volatility here in the market. First off, let's take a look. There's something going on here in these stocks that have been, the drug maker stocks that just have been beat down in anticipation of new government regulations and scrutiny in here. But I got to tell you, this chart pattern here in Moderna, that's a nice little chart pattern. If you have an interest in some drug makers in here, keep an eye on Moderna. Nice little higher low coming into this play. You can see it's just crossed through its 50-day moving average, what we call a rounded bottom breakout, starting to show some bullishness here. Watch for that opportunity if those bulls can come around, that we might just push this right on higher here, start picking up some of this big sell-off here in Moderna. Now, the same thing is true in many of the drug makers. Take a look at J&J, Johnson & Johnson, pushing through its downtrend, had a really good bullish move here Tuesday, pulled back yesterday, but you can see if we can hold some support in here, we might just find that energy to push this on up. So keep an eye on those if you have some interest in those drug makers. Eli Lilly also coming back after quite a substantial pullback in the chart, pushing through this downtrend right in here, and we're resting back to hold that support. I think there's every reason to believe that there is something going on here, and we might see some bullishness coming into those trades. Take a look at AT&T now. I have a bias here in AT&T. I am holding this stock, and AT&T has been doing quite well here after earnings, continuing to stretch on up. I think it needs, this is the weekly chart, which I am trading the longer term trade in here. This probably needs a little rest or pullback after such a zooming move, but watch that carefully. If we can rest, consolidate, pull back in here into that support, we might look for this trend out here for that next opportunity to the upside. So watch that closely. If we take a look at Verizon, Verizon's coming around here and pushing through this resistance in the chart. You can see a little bit of a inverted head and shoulders pattern maybe being built here. So if we can rest or consolidate in here, might be some interesting opportunities there in Verizon. Keep a close eye on that. Take a look at stocks like Juniper. Now Juniper just got slammed here the other day, pushing back hard, and I would suggest that as we rally back up into these areas here, guys, I would start watching for that potential of a short opportunity in here. Any kind of resistance where we start to show some failure patterns, I think there may be some opportunities for short. Watch that carefully. Remember, we have that potential that we could go either way, and that's why I'm bringing up some alternatives here for the other side. Now, one thing we saw a big move here in Coke on Monday, and we pulled it back yesterday on Tuesday. We're still holding in here on these little higher lows. Now, if we start to stumble in the market, if we do get a stumble, watch some of these defensive sector stocks. Defensive sector stocks are a good rotation place, and they've been beaten down substantially here, so keep an eye on those. Things like Tyson starting to push back up here. Obviously, yesterday was a pretty good pullback with everything in tech sucking money out of the market, but watch that carefully. If we can hold some support in here, there may be some opportunities to the upside. When we look at tech here on the day and try to avoid some of the ones that are reporting today, if we take a look at AMD still struggling in here an awful lot in this chart. I do think we're coming into a really big area of price support. You may want to start watching this for a little bit of a basing pattern in here on AMD. That could come around, but for now you still have to stay on the watch for that potential short. We could rally back up into here and then continue to pull back until we come into contact with that bigger area of support. Take a look at Robinhood. Robinhood enjoying quite the upside move here in the market as big tech continues to, or not big tech, as crypto continues to be one of the darlings of the market. So watch that carefully. This resting pullback in here looks like it could set up that next opportunity to the upside. I'd keep a close eye on that. We might want to keep an eye on eBay here. eBay making a big stretch here the last couple of days. We're up here attacking some resistance in the chart. If it can pop through, awesome. If it has to rest back a little bit to then pop through, just as good. Watch that area in here on eBay. That's coming around looking pretty good overall. Roku. Whoops, can't type here this morning. Roku trying to break through some resistance here in this chart. Notice we're running along this trend area in here. If we can get a little bit of bullishness coming into the market, and we know today we've got the setup where we could get a lot of bullishness coming into the market, keep an eye on that. We might see Roku push on through to the upside. So quite a few stocks here that are moving all over the place. There's some great looking patterns. There's some great looking setups here in the market. The CRSC or CRSR, really bullish upside move. Nice little rest back here. Good bullish candle in there yesterday. Near trend, near support. Watch this one. If we can get that bullish move continuing to follow through, we might just see that push on higher. So lots for everyone to look at here, and there's quite a bit on the sell side as well. So there's bullish charts, there's bearish charts to be aware of here in the market. Just pick your poison, I guess, but I would be really careful going into these reports this afternoon and just watching carefully to protect your accounts, protect your profits for the likely volatility that we could see over the next few days. So with that, have a wonderful Wednesday. I'll see you all right back here bright and early Thursday morning. Take care, be safe. Wish you all the best.